and welcome back to the Financial Freedom Now show. Thank you for tuning in. We are super glad to provide to produce this to you on a weekly basis. And if you haven't yet, please visit our previous episodes on your all of your platforms. It will be something massive. You do not want to miss it. But today, oh my goodness, I have got a special guest. I have got David now. David, I was going to do an intro into what David is into David, but I think what better way if I've got David to get David to introduce himself. You want to sit tight for this one. You want to definitely hear all he's got to offer because it is. I mean, I've gotten to know David over the last few months. He had a bit of his story, and definitely something I'm not going to let out of the bags. I want to deep dive into as we go along. But David, welcome to the Financial Freedom Now show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you? Introduce yourself
I'm
to the
good.
audience.
I'm good. Yeah. Well, thanks. And thanks very much for having me. It's a great privilege to be here. So yes, I'm intrigued now what you're going to deep dive into now. I'm intrigued which bit of my story you're going to get into, but we'll find out in a bit, I'm sure. But yeah, so I'm David Roberts. I am a business leader, and I've taken one business from startup to 8 figures in 2 years. And I've taken another business, sort of bought into it, sort of put my house on it, and then doubled the size of that business and doubled the profitability of that business in 4 years, and then sort of sold that business on. And now I help. I still run that business and still help that business to perform and to grow, but also help other business owners who want to go through a similar kind of a journey. And the key thing for me is about a business that makes a difference. We're all in business. Those of us who are in business or have got aspirations to be in business, generally want to create some positive impact for the world. So I like working in businesses. And with businesses that want to have that positive impact, not just with the products and services that they sell, but also for the people that work in that business, to build a culture where people can really kind of bring their whole selves to work, really express themselves and really be empowered to make a difference in their own lives as well as for the business that they work for. So those are the kind of things that really kind of float my boat.
Absolutely. And I know one of the things you're passionate about is creating an environment for everyone to grow. And one of the, I mean, listeners to this show, one of the things we always go on and on about is financial freedom. A lot of people do not, it sounds alien to them in terms of actually financial freedom. It seems far fetched. And you being passionate about creating that environment. And obviously you've shown that you can do that just by the different businesses that you have grown. One of the first questions, and I'm going right at the top, is, you have built all of those businesses, you've helped them grow to 8 figures. Surely you've got to work with different everyone else, a team to actually make that happen. What's been your experience in terms of growing those teams and people's attitude towards financial freedom?
Well, I think it's interesting because different people have different perceptions, different values, different priorities. So the first thing about being a leader is to make sure that you realize that your role is actually about serving other people. So you need a team. 80% probably plus of what you're going to achieve in your life is actually going to be achieved by other people, and not by command and control and telling people what to do, by serving people. So understanding that, like I say, you work for them, not the other way around. That's the first thing. And then it's about understanding them and what it is that they want to get out of life, and what it is they want to get out of their 8 hours, if you like, that they're going to put into their working day. And for some people it's about money. For some people it's about enough money to be able to enable them to go and do the things that they want to do. So freedom for them might not be about money. It might be about time. It might be about actually, from a kind of an earnings point of view, they are playing almost like a supporting role rather than a lead role. And so for them, flexibility could be more important. So it's a bit about understanding what's important for them. And then when you've then got those two bits right, it's about actually making sure that you as a leader of a team or as a business owner simplify things as much as possible for your team. So you're making it as simple as possible for your team to be able to provide a great level of service for customers, to be able to work together to solve problems, and then also then to, as far as possible, to systemize that so that things can repeat, and everyone can go up a level. Because when people look at what's important to them and what motivates them, there's three key things that really motivate people, and things like chunk up to these three key things. So one is relationships. So people want to work with people they enjoy working with. Another is achievement. So people want to know they've done a good job, and at whatever level they're at in the business or in the team, people want that sense of achievement. They want to know they've got something done. And then the third thing is growth. So, and that's about either growing themselves as a person by having the opportunity to stretch themselves, and sometimes maybe like baby steps outside of comfort zone, sometimes huge leaps, but understand the person, help them to grow in the way they want to grow, and also growth from a kind of a financial point of view, and putting money on the bottom line, hitting targets, and that being reflected in their incentives or the way they get paid. Long term incentive plans that mean that they might not get a share in the business and the equity of the business, but they do get a share in the success of the business and the results that the business generates over a longer term. So it's a bit about understanding those kind of different dynamics and how you can play those things into the people in your team that make sure that everyone's focused on the common goal and all that kind of stuff, and they can see what part they've got to play in getting the business towards that.
I don't know if you've listened to what David has just shared there, and the truth is, you are gonna fall into one of those category. Definitely. I mean, this is. I mean, when I talk about financial freedom, a lot of people then tend to forget. Just assume we're talking about a certain type of people. We're talking about everyone. For I mean, three things. David mentioned: relationship, growth, achievement. Those are things that we deal on a daily basis, and for each of us, that one of them might be much more prominent than the other, and it's just you understanding what's important to you in your pursuit in life, and understanding that your financial freedom journey is going to require people. If you think you can succeed without people, you've got another thing coming. You need people around you, and whether that be that you're buying from them, or you're selling to them, or they're investors. There's something you need people around you. So you understanding what this key elements and what is important to each person is very key for you to sort of start on your journey. So talking about starting on your journey, David, what I want to check with you, can you share like your personal journey into financial freedom? What are the key things, key steps you took in place? Yes, you've talked about these businesses you've grown and how successful they are. We absolutely love them, but I want to take our audience back to when you started on this journey. What did that actually look like? What are the key steps that you put in place to help you get you on this path?
Sure, yeah. So that's of course. I mean, yeah. So you're right. So now I've got myself into a position where I have a degree of financial freedom, financial independence. But it wasn't always like that. If you wind the clock back, I guess to 2008. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you've been going to work, doing a job, focusing on a career, trying to do the right thing, but then you're working in an office, and you're looking at the screen, the computer screen, and actually you're not actually looking at it. You're sort of staring through it, and you're not quite sure what to do next. There's piles of paper, stacking up either side of you, you feel the kind of the stress and the kind of the back of your necks, there's the sweats pouring and all that, and then that was me, and I kind of came to. I think it was a tapping of somebody else's keyboard in this office I was working, and I came to, and I realised that I'd got myself to a point where I was really, really stressed, and I took a walk. I left my desk, took a walk. I was in, I'd got myself into, about £40,000 worth of consumer debt. Trying to live a life that I wanted to live, but beyond my means. Being employed, I was enjoying parts of my job, but not really able to own and influence it in the way that I wanted to. I was working for an organization where I was being asked to come up with loads of ideas and not coming up with the ideas, but they then weren't then being implemented. And that was proving frustrating, for me. So at the same time as trying to live a life and provide for a family and be a success, I found myself constrained. And I've got this memory of sitting in an audience at a like a town hall thing in this company that I was working at. And this isn't the first time this has happened. It's happened a couple of times. And I'd listened to the MD or the CEO talking about the business, thinking, do you know what? I wish I worked for the business that he's talking about, because he was talking about the company and it didn't feel like that. It didn't look like that. It didn't smell like that in any way, shape or form. So for me, it was a case of, right, I know that I need to be able to put myself into a position where I can control the environment where people are working, or create an environment, if you like, where the people are working, where they can actually feel the polar opposite to the way I was feeling. You know, they can feel empowered to make a difference. They can, that they're working for an organization that's got values that aren't just written on the wall, that's got a vision that really is about bringing something positive to make a difference in other people's lives. And so I had that moment of realization. And from then, I then said, right, okay, so who is it I need to be? And I don't know if you've ever heard the analogy about be, do, have. You know, so people kind of look at people who are doing well financially or in a relationship or whatever, and they think, well, I want to have that. And but you focus on the having, then what you're not going to do is necessarily get that straight away. You know, you've got to start off with a picture of what it is that you want to have. But if you become obsessed with that without first working out who it is you need to be able to achieve it, then you're going to fail. And I'd been told about be, do, have. I didn't make up be, do, have as a kind of a principle. But I went home and I had a conversation with my wife, and we agree we need to do something differently. And then it was a case of, okay, so who is it then that I need to be? So I had to kind of get into my own head, who do you need to be a successful business person, to create a team, to create a culture, and what are the qualities of a successful business owner? So that thing about confidence and decisiveness and integrity, and being generous, but being able to motivate yourself and manage your own emotional state. And then so I had to kind of begin to embody all of those qualities. So I went back to the same job the following day, but I went back as a kind of a different person with a different mindset, saying, right, now I need to be the person, no matter what my circumstances are, because that is going to create the opportunities that are going to mean that actually I'm going to be able to cycle through being the entrepreneur, being the successful business owner, so that I then started to do the things that a successful business owner does, which is about looking at what you need to do in order to accomplish your goals, and actually making the right moves, making the right decisions, because I can be decisive. I can therefore make the right decisions because I know that I need to hold high integrity. I will do the right thing, even though sometimes I might be asked to do something differently, and I will know clearly what I stand for, and what I stand against, and I will act in that way. Because the trouble for me was I didn't have a great idea for a product that meant that I could be an entrepreneur, right? Or a business to start up. So I had to become an intrapreneur first. Well, that was just my journey. I had to make sure that I was doing everything I possibly could to be the successful business owner in the context of somebody else's business. And what that did for me, that just happened to suit me, and also it fit my circumstances. And what that did for me is it meant that when the opportunity came to start up a business for myself, I was in the right kind of mindset to be able to start that business up, to know about the fact that you needed to have a real clear vision, and to have practiced that, to have got the right values and behaviors clearly set out, to really understand the numbers and really understand, okay, so you've got to be making profit, but you've got to be looking at cash flow. You've got to understand who your ideal customer is that you're working for, and actually be quite ruthlessly focused on that customer, not get distracted, because I can get a bit distracted by stuff. But all that stuff sort of flowed through from that initial decision about deciding, okay, it's who I need to be. That's a vital thing. That will then lead to what I need to do, which will then enable me to have then the things that I wanted, which was to be able to be an influential person and to have a positive impact on others. But at the same time, being able to be kind of high net worth so that I could have choice and freedom to be able to do the things that I wanted to do for me and my family. So that's my sort of journey. I hope that answers the question.
No, no, it does, and I think you've brought up an interesting factor, which whilst you're speaking, I just quickly sort of looked it up because a lot of people actually believe. I mean, two things you mentioned there is the point at which you had gotten to almost that. I'll say that you've gotten to that roadblock where you felt like something different has got to happen. It's the things have got to change. You cannot continue the way you've been now. Of course, you did, like you said, you had were 40,000 in debt, but it wasn't a case that you didn't have a job. You had a job that was paying. So, so some of our listeners, you may be feeling stuck in a job. Yes, there is provision, but yet there is none. If you see what I mean, it's just that you almost feel like you're in a tight space, and you just feel like something has got to shift. And a lot of people, and most especially entrepreneurs, you feel that way for a while. You just think, okay, I've got to shift. Things have got to shift and change. So I don't know if what David has just shared has resonated with you, but it definitely did make that thought process that being financially free or becoming an entrepreneur starts in your mind. You start to shift things around you. You start making you change your behavior. Either, I mean, a lot of people just think, oh, I just come up with this product, I just get this investment, and I go out into business and do it. No, it starts up a long time in your mind before you actually now you're able to sort of show it out to the world, or you have the physical manifestation of what you've been thinking of. But the other thing that you mentioned, which is very, very key, and I personally, which is what I look for, is being an intrapreneur. I just look at what entrepreneurship means, and that concept, because you might be at a job and you know that there are things you can make happen, but you just don't feel like you have that expression. But even just you being able to sort of start find an expression of your entrepreneurship whilst you were at your job, it's amazing. I don't think many people talk about this. I personally have not heard a lot about it, and I just looked it up.
Yeah,
A system that allows an employee act like an entrepreneur within a company or organization. It's like, wow, that
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
going to be a lifesaver for a lot of people. They can find, yeah.
Def- Definitely, and also I think that, like I say, it kind of suited me to take that route because I had to develop the courage, right, and I had to develop the conviction, and as I said
Yeah.
earlier on, I got to a point where I felt confident to put the house on a deal and risk everything, because I was backing myself. But right now some people
Mm.
are fortunate in that they are able to back themselves, in a way that, I would so depending on the sort of hat that I've got on, you can say, well, that's risky or that's reckless, and
Mhm.
that whether it's risky or reckless depends on your perspective, right? Now, potentially, you could look at what I've done, and like I said, there's nothing special about me, and I've every day's a school day. I'm learning those every single day, right? And what I've achieved in 30 years, other people have achieved in 5 years. Okay, so look, there's nothing special about me other than, I've had the desire to learn, and I've recognised that working with people is a way to accelerate and to make things happen. As long as everyone gets something out of it, then you're on to a winner. And for me, like I say, that intrapreneurial route, I mean, that wasn't on the job ad. They didn't say we are looking for an entrepreneur. As you said, you're bang on. It's a mindset thing, right? So I'm going to put a shift in anyway. I'm a grafter anyway. So where's the harm for me in going the extra mile? And when I'm asked to do a job or something's in my job description, doing that plus 50%, right? Or coming up with an idea that could not just help us to get to 90% customer satisfaction, but could get to 95% or 100% customer satisfaction. Or instead of growing to £3 million, take it to £5 million, or whatever it is. There's nothing stopping you doing that apart from yourself, right? So the decision that you take is kind of yours. And like I say, what helps you with those decisions, because some people say, well, it's not worth it, I'm not bothered, why should I put that effort in, it's not for me. Now if it's not for you, that's fine, it's not for you. But if you do have aspirations, whether for financial freedom or time freedom, or whatever kind of level of freedom that you're looking for, then actually, if you don't happen to have an idea for a product or service yet, or you don't feel you've got the educational understanding yet to be able to start your own investment business, whether that be in property or in companies or whatever it might be, then actually being an intrapreneur and pushing your business to grow faster on the back of your human capital, if you like, your sweat equity or whatever you want to call it, then you're going to get two potential benefits from that. One benefit is that the learnings you will get from that are enormous, and potentially they will kind of stand you in good stead. And secondly, if you do it and you do well, and by the way, by doing well, it doesn't always need to work, but you kind of make an account of yourself and you show your growth as a person. If you're working for a business that is a good business to work for, then there's a good chance that you'll be rewarded either with promotion or further opportunities or investment in further training or whatever it might be, that it's going to take you nearer to your goals.
I think it's actually really important because a lot of people are sitting on the fence on actually even going into entrepreneurship just because what you said, our risk levels are all different. I literally left my 9 to 5, bang on, went into business, but I understand that not many people would do what I did. And if you might be
Hmm.
sitting on the fence or knowing fully well you need a bit more courage, you need a bit more encouragement, or you need to learn a bit more before you sort of venture out to do what it is that is burning inside of you that you want to do. So I think everyone has access to this to what you're talking about, David, because it's not a case of now that the risk levels are a lot lower. You're doing your job, you're just going the extra mile, you're learning massively, and nothing can beat the experience you will build, whether for that business you're working in right now or even in the future to
Hmm.
set up yours. You'll have the opportunity to then build that. And like you said, no business would not reward you for sort of that work you put in, whether it's in promotion or even being able, because you can do it so well to the point which you can then start making certain requests. And if at that point in time the requests are not granted or whatever, but you have built that confidence knowing fully well, I can now replicate this for myself, for my business. I mean, I don't know what truer way to achieve your financial freedom, financial independence by using what you've got currently. Now, this is not asking you to venture out into the wild and not knowing what tomorrow would look like. This is using what you've got right now, the space, the positions, everything you've got right now to actually start venturing out. Because I think this is a fun. I didn't think a conversation was going to go here, but actually makes sense because the amount of times I hear people say, "Well, it's so easy for you to say you don't understand what I've got. I've got the bills. I can't just do this. It'll be too reckless for me to do it." But hey, you can do it from where you are right now.
Right, right. And I think the other thing about it is that potentially you can also negotiate if you've got an idea, bring an idea forward. Sometimes you can negotiate for for a slice of it financially if it comes off, right? So and that again, depending on who you're working for and the way that you do that, can be quite well received because you're showing that kind of entrepreneurial spirit. And most organisations are looking for that balance between entrepreneurship and control, right? So I think it's a great option. And I mean, I think the other thing to consider as well is um, if your circumstances currently are such that you are thinking about some kind of second job, because cost of living, that kind of thing, then another option is to think, okay, well, what could I do that is going to help me to learn or earn, but do that on my own, and it costs very, very little money, for example, to set up as a limited company, even less as a sole trader, and you could start doing that working on your own. And it's about, I suppose that's where the bit that we've not really touched on, which is about having that desire to be financially free, is one thing, but what's the reason why you want that, right? And if the reason why you want that, if it's all about the money, then you might find that will give you enough energy for a period of time, but it's probably
Very
not
sure.
enough of a reason to keep you going, especially if you find it tough. After a couple of months, you're going to give up on the dreams of having a Lambo, and you're going to just be happy with your kind of with whatever it is you're currently driving,
Absolutely.
and you're going to just shift back. You've got to have a reason beyond money for it to be really motivating for you. So to identify your why or your purpose, and as you know, I'm quite into purpose, because I believe that everyone's got that kind of that thing inside them that and some people have unlocked it and some people haven't, but that their real reason for being, that really brings its own energy, that kind of thing that you love doing, that kind of thing that you lose track of time when you're doing it. And it can be, it doesn't have to be a job. People think about it in the context of a job, like whether it be a practical thing like working with cars or selling or whatever. It can be a something like a conversation. It can be something like helping people. It can be something like listening to others. It can be talking. For some people, it is sitting down and typing. For some people, it's spreadsheets. I'm never going to ever understand that, right? That's not me. But for some people, it's spreadsheets and numbers, right? But whatever it is, there's going to be stuff that takes you away, and you can lose hours, and you don't know you're doing it. What is that, and why is it you get into such flow when you're doing that? And if that's not in your job, and you need a bit of extra money, see if you can find a way to turn that into some kind of a side hustle, some kind of an online business that's into fashion or cosmetics or music or whatever it is that floats your boat, and just try a few things out, because there's okay, there could be something to lose from the point of view of the risk of if you need money and you think a second job's going to give you money, then there's potentially a risk it's going to take a bit longer. But jobs and the concept of security are not the same thing, right? A job is as secure or as insecure as starting your own business. It's just a different kind of way of being. It's a bit of a myth, if you like, that I've got job security. No one's got job security. We can only need to look back the last couple of years as to see what's happened with the pandemic and all that, to have a very recent reminder that some it doesn't have to be a big thing like that. It can be something that really affects a localized market or whatever it might be, or your own ability to do a job potentially, with health and all that kind of stuff. Job security is a bit of a myth. So, the only secure thing is something that you do secure yourself. And so I'd encourage people to think about it in those terms. And again, not to frighten people, but to kind of think, but to kind of create just a different perspective. Think, okay, so what could I do? How could I, harness my passion, my purpose, and actually use that partly as a force for good, partly to make me feel good, but also partly as a way to create some kind of income for myself. That'd be a great thing to challenge yourself with if you're looking for a bit of extra money at the minute.
Coming from David, was bought, grown, sold several businesses, eight-figure businesses. I mean, you would be very wise to sort of take those words on board and just listen, adhere to it, and imbibe those words, because that they're very. I mean, if you just, you might need to actually, because I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Just literally rewind and literally listen to what David has just actually put in there, because it's just literally baby steps on how you can step into that world of entrepreneurship whilst you still have your job, if that's what, if you want to ease yourself into it. David, I know you run a show for people with purpose, and by the way, guys, you need to sort of go check David on most of the platforms and see all the wonderful things he's done. One of the questions I wanted to ask you as we wrap it up now, because I sat here just listening to you and can imagine how long I can keep going on and on, drilling in and just trying to find out a bit more. But I'm conscious that I don't want to make this too long. But one of the things that I wanted to sort of touch on just before we sort of go is how important, especially with your work, talking to loads of different people with purpose, because you mentioned something there in the fact that you've got to know your why you wanting to do this, why you deciding to actually go on the path of achieving financial independence or financial freedom. I mean, it's very key. Money is not going to keep you for long. How important do you reckon mindset is in achieving anything, wanting to create a difference in our world? What do our listeners need to do in terms of mindset? Can I just go on and continue as I've always been and I just expect things to change? What exactly needs to shift?
So that's an interesting question. I mean, I think mindset is everything. Belief is vitally important, and no matter what part of life it is, your beliefs, generally speaking, will influence your the way you view the world. That it will influence how effective you can be in different circumstances. You can walk into a conversation with somebody, believing it's not going to go well. Guess what? It doesn't go well, and you don't get the job, you don't get the deal, you don't get the date, whatever it is you're looking to get out of that conversation. Um, so so yeah, and I guess in a way it kind of comes back a little bit to this whole thing about willpower, and people say, lots of people say, look, I've got no willpower. Right, the fact is that you have. Everyone's got willpower, right? Whether you like it or not, you've got it. And the trouble is that you kind of end up using it subconsciously rather than consciously. So your will to smoke or to have a drink or to stay in a job that makes you unhappy, or to stay safe, for whatever reason, by not stepping out your comfort zone, is sometimes stronger because you haven't taken a step back to really reflect on what it is you want, and to kind of fix in your mind exactly how you can go about taking one step towards achieving it. And it was the old Henry Ford quote, isn't it, which says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right, something like that. So that I think is very, very powerful, and very, very true. So being able to challenge your beliefs, and the stories that you tell yourself, I think, is the single most powerful thing that you can do to help yourself. So think of it as a story, right? And if you think about any kind of story, that story can be edited. Okay, so if you go through this process, if you like, if there's a belief or an emotional reaction that you're seeing in yourself that's not helping you get to where you want to get to, then you can edit that story. So, the E stands for examine. So you can examine that story and really kind of write your stories down. If it's limiting beliefs, write them down. Ask a friend, if they see you behaving like that. So examine the story. And then the D for edit is to debunk it. Look at it from the other end of the telescope. Ask where that came from. Say, okay, is it always like that? Is it, cause sometimes people say, oh, this always happens to me, or I could never do that. Really? Always? Never? Think about those kind of things and debunk them, to create a new narrative, which kind of should be based around I can and I will. Just try and start off with those two, either I can or I will as a sentence. And then the I for edit is about how you integrate the new narrative, write it down somewhere. So I am a successful entrepreneur, and you can write that down. You can put that as a post-it note on your thing, or I will create security for my family through my gifts. Whatever kind of empowering statement that comes up with, that's the opposite to that limiting belief you had. integrate that into your life, and then take it on. Try it out. Just embody it. If you're putting a new belief in place of the limiting belief, then you do need to take it on. You need to embody it and make it happen. So that's the thing about mindset for me is if you catch yourself saying something to yourself, the voice inside your head or whatever that doesn't serve you, that's a limiting belief. Recognize it, examine it, debunk it, get a new one, integrate that into your life, and then take it on and embody it and make it happen. And that potentially can take you forwards.
Wow. Indeed, the Henry Ford quotes, which don't find faults, find a remedy. Anyone can complain. If you think you can, you're right. And if you think you can't, but you're
Yeah.
also absolutely right. Really, there's nothing else you need. I mean, this has gone totally not the way I planned, but wow. I mean, just that. I mean, it's been mind blowing, and I definitely something you want to listen to again and again and again. The truth is, you are you can take your story and you can edit that story. You can change it around. You can turn it around. It doesn't have to end the way it started. It doesn't have to continue. If you're not happy, I think I like what you said. If you're not happy with that job, if you accept it in your subconscious, or you just things have to continue that way, then it's all down to you. It's there isn't a case of, oh, well, life happened to me. Yeah, that is massive, David. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm not sure if you plan to say that either, but I suppose there's a lot of strength in that for anyone who wants to take it. Good.
Yeah. I
Thank you
mean,
so much,
well, I
David.
mean, you're welcome. I mean, that is something that I have spoken about before. So it's not just made up off the top of my head, because it's about thinking about how you can take the challenges that you're presented with every single day, and then take the energy and the tension in those challenges and turn that into something that can be a force for good. So I just like if you can find like a snappy little word or a little acronym or whatever to help you to remember it, then that helps you then to embody it more, and it can become a habit for you. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to remember. And then really the thing about all this is about practicing stuff. So it's only because I've spotted limiting beliefs in my own head, and I thought, okay, I've got to do something different here. And I've tried, and it's been challenging, right? So finding a routine, finding a little kind of mantra, right? Okay, edit the story. Okay, that just helps me, and hopefully that'll help other people as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, David. We absolutely have enjoyed this. I'm going to go listen again and pick out things for myself, for my business as well. Because, like you rightly said, we learn every day. Every day is a school day, so you want to keep learning, you want to keep building, you want to keep growing. What does I mean? Just wrapping up and just also let the audience know how they can learn more from your wealth of knowledge, because I think there is a lot in there. We can't tap into everything today. But also, what does the future look like for David? What else should we expect from David? Any more businesses to be made, started off, grown, sold? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I'm working with a couple of different businesses at the moment, and helping and supporting their boards, and because businesses are looking to grow, and that there are some challenging market conditions at the moment, and looking to attract investment as well. I'm helping several businesses to grow at the moment, and providing a bit of coaching and a bit of mentoring as well, and also spending a lot of time on the podcast, because so the People with Purpose podcast is a great project for me, because it helps me to get things out of my head, but also I get to have fantastic conversations with people like you, people who are kind of looking to make a difference. And so massive respect to you for starting a podcast, because it's not an easy thing necessarily to do. Well, actually it is easy, but it can be easy, but it's a commitment. It's a real
Yes.
commitment to keep it going, keep the consistency going. And when you're looking to to build something. It's challenging and all that, but get so much out of it. So there'll be more work in business, but also time with family and loved ones as well, because that's really really important to me. And really, that is, if there's a why beyond the business world, then that's really important to me, family. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
It's been an enjoyable time. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in, and thank you to our lovely guest, David Roberts, who's been valuable, more than valuable in the words and the wisdom he's shared with us today. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in. It's been a great show, great conversation going on here, and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. And I look forward to probably having you back in the future, because I think there's a lot more that we could get in there. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, David, for being our lovely guest on here, giving us all of those great nuggets. Until next time, guys, please tune in to our shows. It launches every week, and we'll continue to grow, bringing lovely guests like David and sharing all the information you need to actually achieve your financial freedom, and to achieve your financial freedom now. All right, then, take care and bye.